explain to me what happened today. What happens?
Okay, so...
And tell me a bit about the stealing from tomorrow to pay today.
Yeah,
I love that.
I'll tell you. We had over 12 admissions in our emergency department without any beds assigned to them.
Right.
So we had no flow. Where this becomes a problem is when you have 12 admissions in the emergency department, you have 12 children sitting in those beds. We only have a certain capacity.
In those 22, is that what we're looking at?
In the 22 exam rooms?
In the 22 exam rooms, right?
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
So, those patients that are admitted need the nurses to look after them.
Right.
So they're occupied looking after the patients that aren't moving.
When they really should be in beds that aren't available somewhere else.
Exactly.
Right.
Because there's 22, there's 42, there's 62 patients coming behind them.
Right.
That also needs those beds. Those are high turnover beds. So come on to 12 admitted patients. That's bed block. So more patients are coming in, and those nurses are looking after these patients, but they also have to look after the patients that are coming in. But where it becomes critical is when you are not moving those 12 patients, your traumas and your VSAs, so vital signs absence,
okay,
any of those resuscitation needs are impacted. How are they impacted is that your nurses are taken away and need now to become available to do the resuscitation.
Right.
So then there's a delay in eyes on your patient at that time because the nurses are in recess.
And that's a bigger problem than the other people in ED waiting to get into those 22 rooms.
Right.
Although that is also an issue.
Well, yes.
Except they just have to wait longer because they're not vital signs absent.
Correct. Exactly. But this morning that wasn't our priority. It was at first, but then when we looked at our ICU and our NICU capacity, how many beds do we have? So how many patients in the beds? Is anybody ready to what? So our terminology is a little bit harsh sometimes, but we call it decanting or transferring out.
Right.
So we had 12 patients in our ICU, plus we had 3 ICU patients in our NICU. Yeah. So we're closed. You can't be closed. There's always somebody coming in that needs that bed. So in order to continue to be safe, you need to pre-plan your next admission. Where's your next critical patient going? So in doing that, you need to identify who is ready to be decanted or transferred out.
And these are the greens and yellows?
These are the greens.
The greens, okay. Yellows are tomorrow.
Correct. So we identified 2 greens this morning. But I have nowhere to place them because even though Emerge has 12 admissions, PICU and NICU are full. I have no room in the inn, which means the medicine, oncology, surgical floor. Because there's empty beds, but I don't have staff.
Okay. So those 2 people are ready almost to go home?
No, move from ICU.
You're right.
Oh.
To the right.
Oh,
right.
Okay. Oh, just to move to like...
So they stabilize.
To move to 4 East or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
Thank you.
But I don't have beds.
Okay.
So how am I going to get beds? Because we can't just say, okay, it is what it is. No, we have to figure out what we can do. So what we did is we identified those 2 that we could transfer out of PICU, who are actually in NICU, because there's no room in PICU.
Right.
But they're PICU patients.
Yep.
So we started at 9:15 in the morning. The first thing we did is we identified on medicine who are our anticipated first patients to be discharged.
You say on medicine. What do you mean?
So on 4 East or 5 East.
Okay.
These, because the patients that were in PICU are medicine patients, not surgical patients and not oncology patients.
Okay.
So we're trying to put the right patient in the right environment at all times.
Right.
But we weren't able to do that because there was already patients in the beds on 4 East, 5 East on medicine.
Right.
So we need to wait for discharges. This is where some of our barriers are. So hospitals not only, we hear a lot in the media about the nursing shortage, the nursing staffage, we also have a critical physician staffing issue. And today we had a lack of physicians, and therefore the physicians that we need to be at bedside to discharge patients, we had smaller teams.
Right.
Which means we need to wait a longer period of time for our physicians to get to our patients.
Right.
Which means we don't get that discharge, so I can't transfer PICU out.
So a discharge that maybe you might get at 2 o'clock.
Transfer.
Sorry.
the transfer.
No, I'm talking about a discharge now.
The discharge from
the
medicine.
Discharge you're waiting for that maybe might come at 2 o'clock isn't coming until 6 or 8 or whatever for tomorrow.
Exactly. So we have those 12 admitted patients that have now turned into 15. And one of those 15 needs to be intubated. Now we have an ICU patient in our resuscitation room that needs ICU. But I don't have any beds in ICU because those 2 transfers haven't moved out to medicine yet. Because
so they stay in resus?
Yeah, absolutely. So every 4 hours in this hospital, we have what we call a bed meeting.
Okay.
So the next bed meeting was at 1:30. And at that time, we were able to pre-plan to the discharges. Okay, so the discharges aren't going. Well, now we need to go to plan B because we need a plan to keep moving. We never close. Nobody closes. We always have to have a plan B.
The inn is open.
Always. Okay, so our plan was we're going to assign to discharges. So don't forget, the 2 PICU patients in NICU were pre-assigned to medicine. Those patients haven't left. But as the day progresses...
And when you say pre-assigned, you just mean they're scheduled to go there as soon as possible.
As soon as the discharge occurs.
Yeah,
exactly. So here's a list of all my admissions. But when I am planning, like the hospital planning, like, okay, plan A is not working.
This I've seen, yeah.
Exactly. Plan B. I need to go to plan B. This is my visual of what I can plan to. So see, I have these greens.
Yeah.
So what I did is that I can't not move forward. Reason why I can't not move forward is each patient needs a physician to see them and write orders for the nurses to follow to care for those patients.
Right.
So what we need to do is go to plan B. How are we going to open? So we identified the 2 in PICU were pre-assigned to medicine.
Yeah.
And medicine had more greens to come. But like you said, 4 o'clock, 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock tonight. So what we need to do is anticipate the flow. So we pre-assign some of those emerged patients to those discharges on medicine. That alerts the physician team, no, we don't have a bed, but that patient's going to that bed, so go see that patient now, write those orders, so when those discharges do come, bang, we're flowing.
Right.
So here we are with all our admissions. And so we can't keep all these admissions in those beds. So we have opened during our surge period, during this viral surge period, we've opened 10 more beds in another section that's close to the emergency department that you'll hear us refer to as MDU. That's our medical day unit. Yeah. So we've stolen that area of that clinic from that clinic. They're now using another part.
Right.
We've created a temporary inpatient unit. In that inpatient unit, that will be staffed with an emerge nurse and then another nurse from the hospital that we can find to staff with. So it is usually a medicine nurse or a psychiatric nurse or a surgical nurse, anybody who has volunteered to either come in for extra pay for overtime, and or anybody that we've evaluated their nursing assignments that we can slim down and take a nurse back.
Okay, right.
The problem here is that it needs to be run primarily by an emerge nurse. Why? Because an emerge nurse is, I don't want to say comfortable, but is used to that high-paced volume of inpatients.
Right.
And so buddied with somebody who may not have their skill is actually a perfect match, because that second nurse comes in, helps change patients, helps give PO meds, while that other nurse will do the higher nursing interventions.
Right.
Okay, so we have our emerge patients. We have too many emerge. We're going to decant to MDU. We're going to create that inpatient unit.
Right.
Those are inpatients. They do not move up to the floor until the discharges happen and the beds become available. But they are not priority. Our priority always has to be our intensive care unit.
Right.
All right. Okay, so we run the 11:30 bed meeting. At that time, I got 3 of the emerge patients pre-assigned. Okay. They were short 2 FWs, which is a shift from 19:30 to 23:30. That one of those short shifts that they had declared was a triage skill. At this time, we can't. It's our highest volume in our busiest area. We can't go without that skill.
Okay.
So how do you get that skill?
You pull from somewhere else.
Sorry.
No, you do what you got to do.
So this is part of our job too. It is like an air traffic controller. 2453. So we constantly get texts, and anyhow, that's fine.
So you're getting texts from staff who are saying,
yeah,
saying yes, I can do that, no, I can't do that, whatever.
Exactly,
Okay.
yeah, yes.
What are you offering?
Right. And so we got it because
what did
of
you
that
have to give
personal
up?
connection.
What did you have to give up?
I had to wheel and deal with their rotation. So I look at their rotation. So now I have to sit down. We have a whiteboard that identifies in a week what are each unit shortages and or overages. So I have to sit down because I can't just willy-nilly do anything and then leave them short tomorrow. Or
Isn't that part of the stealing from tomorrow for today?
Well,
We'll get to
but
that.
you have to be careful with
Sure.
that, right? So
tomorrow will come.
Tomorrow will come, but nurses come with different skill, different knowledge,
right.
And not every nurse can take care of the same type of patient.
Right.
So you need to know that nurse lingo. You need to have a look at in the next 48, 72 hours and see what you can bargain with and
right.
what you can't. It's just like a nurse isn't a nurse isn't a nurse is a nurse, right? Okay, so we're back to our admissions. Now we need to make room. So we take 10 and we put them in MDU. 10
out of these 22 rooms.
Yes.
Yep.
These are admitted patients, but they're not my priority. My priority goes back up to those PICU.
Right.
I need to decant those PICU.
Because they're going to meds.
They're going to meds.
Thank you.
But CHEO our PICU is to Eastern Ontario.
Right.
So it's a large region, including Nunavut. So we always need a bed.
Right.
For Eastern Ontario, and actually a lot of our patients come from Gatineau as well, right?
Right. Yeah.
But pediatric nursing is very different. A nurse is different from any other nurse. You can't compare a nurse against nurse. But you also can't compare a pediatric nurse to an adult nurse either. We come with different skills. Nobody is better. We're just different. So let's go back to our patient flow. So now we are bed blocked. We're taking 10. We're putting into MDU. We have the 2 in PICU that have been assigned to medicine, and we've been able to assign 3 others in ED that will eventually go up to medicine.
That's your 15.
That's my 15. Okay, but here's the thing. We can only make this work tonight if we get night staffing. So we ended up with 4 North needing a night, medicine needing...
When you say a night, you mean a night staff?
A night staff, a night nurse.
Nurse, okay.
So is that 7:30 to 7:30?
So this was 7:30 to 7:30.
Okay.
As well as medicine needed 2. So now we're 3. And emerge needed 1. So now we're 4. We can not go without the emerge because of all the admissions.
Right.
Right? But all of straight time has been called. All of overtime has been called, and all of our on-call has been activated. So we have nowhere to pull that emerge nurse from. So that's our plan A. So then our plan B is, if I can't give you the staff, I need to start decanting your department so that your nurses aren't overloaded with patients' assignments, right?
Yep.
Makes sense? Okay, so we're going to come back to that. So 4 North is short a night, and medicine is short 2 nights. All straight time and overtime calls have been made. The only possibility I have here is that on our surgical floor, they have 2 nurses on call. 2 nurses on call for the surgical unit. They've agreed to be on call for their unit.
But they haven't agreed to do anything else.
Exactly, but I don't have the needs on that unit. I have needs on medicine.
Right.
If I don't get those needs filled, I can't admit any of these kids.
Right.
We're not safe. If I don't get those 2 nights on medicine, I can't move from emerge. And then if tons of emerge patients turn to PICU, I can't bring any PICUs out to house.